What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing another video. So today I wanted to do my final thoughts video for Power Rangers Dino Charge, and this is just an overall I talk about like what I feel about the overall show after seeing all the episodes that they've released now. Personally, I'll tell you this much: it's been a really great show. I do admit that, like, out of all the Nick seasons of Power Rangers that they've done so far, it's been the best one. It's been the most interesting story out of those 5 seasons, and it's just been a lot of fun, a lot of really great moments. Has it been perfect? No. Has it been better than all of those other 4 other seasons? Yes. I think that this cast has been very, very good. I think that we've had some awesome moments with each member, and I do want to go through each member, like what my opinions of each of them are and what I like about each of them. So let's start off with Tyler. Of course, Tyler has been a very, very interesting character, and one of the most important things to remember about Tyler is he's the Red Ranger, obviously. Now, you may think to yourself, okay, he's the Red Ranger. He's usually the one that gets the most attention, as you may guess, because usually the Red Ranger tends to get the most attention. And he definitely has a focus, but he's not overly focused. That's one of the things that I love about him. If you remember Super Megaforce and Megaforce even, there was such an emphasis on our Red Ranger for those 2 seasons, and the other ones, you know, were kind of like left behind, and really they weren't as focused as you know, our Red Ranger was, you know, Andrew Grayson, and that's his actor name. I'm right now forgetting, you know, the normal name that he had in the show for some weird reason. Don't ask me why. Anyway, so he, you know, his story is all about, you know, finding his father, and it's a very simple story, and it's a story that does connect very well to the Sentai, because, you know, King or Daigo's father, he also was wondering where his father was, but he wasn't really searching for him. It was more like there was a big influence that came from his father. It was very different, but you know, interesting character. But I like the fact that he definitely had an emphasis, but he wasn't overly emphasized. He was just enough. There was not too much about him, but there was not too little. There was just the right amount of attention that he needed, and, you know, they gave him a good amount of stuff. And I mean, sure, he has a huge thing. Like, if you watch the Sentai, you know that Red gets a lot of attention, but they did it really well, and I loved it. So I think that he's been really good. He's gotten some great stuff, and he's gotten the right attention at the right moments, and he's just been a very cool character, and I really love what they've done with Brennan, and he's just really great. He's just been a really great character. Following this, let's go into our Blue Ranger, Kota. Kota obviously is a really funny guy. If you don't know his actor name, you know, his actor is known as Yoshi. Yoshi's really great. I really love the fact that I know this from conventions and stuff. I haven't seen him in conventions, but I know this, that he is a Sentai fan, and he actually, you know, he's watched stuff, and he's actually been in the recent Sentai that we've had now, and that's just really cool to know that, like, they decided to do that, and he's even interested in pursuing that stuff, and he's really involved in the community. So that's really great, and he's just been a really cool character. He's really funny, and he's gotten his own attention, you know, like referring to his past, and, like, you know, he's been around for thousands of years or whatever, and yet he's still living, and, you know, it's just, it shows, you know, he's a unique character. And personally, I remember back when they first revealed his character that I wasn't sure if he was going to be all that smart, and he's not the smartest character, but at the same time, they could have made him a lot more unintelligent, and I'm glad that they didn't. I'm glad that they gave him just enough intelligence that he worked, that he wasn't just a joke character, although he has jokes, but he was a combination of jokes, seriousness, and other feelings, and he just had enough going for him to keep him as an interesting character that, like, you know, you can relate to and have fun with, and say he's funny, but he has serious moments, and he has things that make him serious and make him interesting. that's one thing that I really loved about him. And he got he got some good attention too, but he wasn't overemphasized. But he, again, a good amount was put into really showing him off and really giving him the right amount of attention. Though I feel like he probably, out of the core 5, probably got the least in some ways. It's about right. I don't know. It's hard to say because I feel like they all got a good amount of attention in their own way. I mean, his emphasis was all on his past and all that, and also just like making friendships with people. So then let's move on to our Green Ranger, who was another one that was interesting. I probably should have done him before Blue, but it's fine. So our Green Ranger, Riley, he lived on a farm. He was a farm boy, and there was nothing really that seemed like he would have been. You didn't really know what to expect, but he had that history with using swords and stuff, even though he was a farm boy, which kind of is disconnected. But it's fine. Obviously he had that swordsmanship ability, which definitely connects to his Sentai counterpart pretty well, because his Sentai counterpart was known for his swordplay. So it's very nice to see that. One thing though that I do have to add, which obviously it could just be too early to say, but like in the Sentai, obviously the Graphite Ranger, which in that show was the Gray Ranger, the Gray Sentai member, he actually there was this whole entire connection between the two of them, but obviously it's not going to be the same thing. In this case, it's more of a connection between the Blue and the Graphite Ranger. Regardless, my point is that Riley's been a very interesting character. We've definitely seen his logical sense, which that's been done a bunch. He's the very wise character, and he's like your nerdier Ranger. He's not the Blue Ranger, which typically is the nerd of the group, but he's the Green Ranger, and he's the nerdier one. But he's also a very cool character that seems intelligent, interesting, and has had some really awesome moments. And just in general, I've liked him enough, and he's had just the right amount of influence and attention. He's gotten his own birthday episode. It's nice to see that they're using some things in their own ways and to make it unique, but at the same time reference previous seasons in different ways. And it's been really great with him as well. There's been a lot of that, and it's been great. So then let's move on to Chase, our Black Ranger. Chase has been one of those characters that started off as one that we wanted to know. Personally, I wanted to know more about, and we've gotten a lot of attention from him. He's gotten to be seen in a lot of ways, and he's shown a lot of great stuff in his own regard, and he's been a really cool character. I personally love his personality. I do like the whole entire ladies man thing. Again, he's very much so matching his Sentai in regard to personality. That's key. That's very key. Remember this now. Though when I say that they match their counterparts, doesn't necessarily mean that they're copying and pasting. No, they're not copying and pasting. It's just that their personalities are very similar, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just means that they're trying to do it because when they morph or whatever, the characters act a certain way that kind of is meant to be paralleled to an extent. And personalities are no big deal because they change the overall story, but the personalities may remain consistent. And that's not true for all seasons. Not all seasons have parallel personalities. Like Megaforce and Super Megaforce definitely did not have matching personalities. Though they tried a little bit more with their Green Ranger for the last season to suddenly change his personality to more of a goofy style, which totally is accurate, but whatever. But anyway, the point is that they gave him some good attention. They showed him as a character that definitely could be a lot more tough and more of a not so kind character in some ways, but at the same time show that he really has a good heart and he really is a nice character and he means well. And he's an interesting character. I really did like him, and I really thought that he was emphasized just enough, and they didn't make him someone that you hated, and he wasn't like a character that was just obnoxious and treated women badly. No, he liked girls, but at the same time he wasn't like obnoxious about it. So that's at least something I can praise the show for doing, giving him that ability to like flirt with girls, but not make him an obnoxious character by really not showing much of the interactions between him and women. Smart. Lastly, we have Shelby for our core 5, which Shelby has been one of my favorite characters. I mean, they've all been really great, but I really have to say that she's been a very cool character. You know, she has been very serious at times. You know, she has that sense of romance. She has that affection towards Tyler especially, and you know that something's gonna happen towards Dino Supercharge, and you know that it's gonna be interesting. And personally, in general, I've loved their interactions between each other, Tyler and Shelby, and I've liked Shelby's interactions with Miss Morgan, and just in general, it's been a lot of really great moments, and she's had some excellent emphasis. I mean, she's the one girl, and she's been really well done. Like, I love what they've done with her, and just in general, I've loved Dino Charge. So let's move on to our other characters. Let's go for Miss Morgan. As we know, recently she finally got confirmed to be the Purple Ranger, although we knew, some of us knew it early, like I knew it early, but it's nice to finally see her as the Purple Ranger. I really liked how she's grown and shown her own change as a character, and her way of thinking has changed. You know, she's gone from this, you know, very serious character to a lot more of a, you know, a lot more flexible, a lot more fun character, but at the same time still having that seriousness that we remember in her from when the show started. And you know, it's been done really well. It's been done very well, and I really do like the way that they've written her in, and you know, scripted her well and shown a lot of the right emotions in her and given her the right amount of attention. And you know, she's just a really cool character. I really like her, and I can't wait to see how she's gonna expand in Dino Supercharge, because you know, now that she's a Ranger, it's gonna be really interesting to see how they're gonna continue with her and how it's gonna work out exactly. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it a lot. So then let's move on to another character, and this is not a Ranger, this is Keeper. So Keeper, in my opinion, has been a character that I have been interested in. He is a character that, you know, he's meant to have these wise moments. He has some fighting ability, but he's sort of like the Yoda of Dino Charge, if you want to say that. You know, people always look at him and say he looks like E.T., and I totally see that in some ways, but in regard to like his acting and his voice and all that, you know, he's almost like the show's own version of like a Master Splinter, or even a Yoda like character. Like, he's basically that type of character. More so, I don't know, but I would say either of them, really. Yeah, he's basically like a Yoda or a Master Splinter. If you're curious what that's referring to, it's Star Wars and it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you know, he's been an interesting character. He's been very wise, and he's definitely been active at times, but at the same time he's kept to himself. He's been calmer, but definitely had some interesting moments, but nothing too much. But just, you know, because of his more like kept back character and less of an emphasis, which I totally could have seen them doing the exact opposite, but I'm glad that they decided to make him more of a Yoda or Master Splinter like character, and I appreciate it. I really do appreciate the fact that they decided against making him overemphasized. So now let's move on to onto one character that I don't know why I didn't talk about him before Kendall or Kiefer. Ivan. Sir Ivan, as you may know, or just Ivan in general, or the Knight Ivan, was a character that was trapped in Fury, and Fury was a character that took control of him, and that matches the Sentai very well, as you may know. And just in general, I really enjoyed his character. You know, his whole entire like night talk, though it can be a little bit much at times, it's done well enough, and it's not overdone. That's one thing that I love, is that they didn't overdo it. They did it towards the beginning a little bit, but it was not too much. They did just enough to make him make sense, but at the same time still mention, like, you know, he is a knight. Like, it's not like we're not gonna forget that he is a knight that's, like, you know, several hundred years old, I believe it was, or 1,000, or several, or like 2,000 years old or something like that. Whatever. The point is that, no, I believe it was several hundred years. Anyway, the point is that, you know, they've done him well. They haven't overdone his, you know, his voice. They haven't overdone any of that, and he's been a very cool character. He's been a character that's definitely helped the team as a whole, and, you know, he really was that missing link that really needed to keep the characters, you know, keep a variety going, because, like, the show's been good, but it was definitely something that, like, was needed, that extra 6th character that needed to come in and really keep the team, you know, altering, and, you know, seeing the interactions between the 6 of them rather than having the 5 of them, which, you know, it worked for a while, but then having 6, you know, it expands a lot more, and it shows, like, okay, there's so much more that you can see from this, and it's good to know. It really is. So, and also his interactions with the other members have been really just perfect. So our last ranger that I can think of would be, obviously, a Graphite Ranger. And a Graphite Ranger hasn't really had many episodes. He's only had 3 episodes. Well, 4 episodes, technically, although he's only been a Graphite Ranger for 3, I believe. That's right. No. 2? I think so. Yeah, 2 episodes he's been a Graphite Ranger, and then the 3rd one he didn't do it. He's been an okay character. I definitely liked him when the episode that he became a ranger. This episode, though, I mean, not this episode, I'm saying the most recent episode, the 20th episode, I didn't dislike him, but the thing was that he wasn't emphasized at all. He kind of was there just because they needed to have all 8 rangers featured in this episode. He was emphasized enough for this episode, but at the same time, it would have been nice if he had a little bit more attention given to him than in previous episodes. But at the same time, he doesn't need to have too much of an emphasis, which is why I actually understand why they didn't do it for the 20th episode. So, you know, he's been a good character. He hasn't had too much, but he's had just enough emphasis, and he's a very cool character, and I feel like they chose him well as an actor, and I like his style of fighting. I like his look, and I've always loved the whole entire. I always loved his helmet because it's just really awesome. So yeah, he's been a really cool character. As far as villains go, you know, there's Sledge. Sledge has been a very interesting character. You know, he is an original character, which is nice to see after having a whole bunch of characters that haven't been original. And we haven't had an original character since RPM, I believe. And when I say original, I mean original villain, because, you know, the villains that we've had in the past, they've all been in the Sentai, but Sledge was not in the Sentai at all. So it's nice to see that we got an original character for Dino Charge, and he's lived up to what I've hoped to see in him. You know, there could have been other things that I could have expanded with, but I'm glad that they did what they did with him. Boy, Sandra, you know, she has an emotional character. She's very different from her Sentai counterpart in a lot of ways. She definitely has the cheery attitude, but at the same time, she's not the same character. I feel like all of them in reality don't really match their Sentai counterparts, the villains, that much, due to the fact that they're in a different location and the story's very different from the Sentai. So I don't really think that any of them really match their counterparts. I mean, Curio is similar, I guess. As far as Fury goes, Fury's always enraged, similar to the Sentai counterpart, and he's like one of the few that actually match. Wrench, oh my god, Wrench is probably like one of the biggest opposites, if you want to know, because Wrench in the Sentai counterpart was all about like being this, like, you know, upset character that would suddenly like have like all these emotions and then suddenly be like super like demonic and like monster and like this like really monstrous character that really was actually a pretty nice fighter, but in this show they really make him out like he's this calmer character that, you know, is really just like the one that makes all the machines and all the monsters and stuff. Like, he's basically your Finster, if you know what I mean. Like, he's basically the equivalent to Finster in the show. And I if you might remember from my first ever Dino Charge review, I mentioned how I feel like a lot of the villains for this season really paralleled the first series of Power Rangers in that way, because you know, Sledge and Sandra, Rita and Lord Zed, Fury, Goldar, Wrench, Finster, and Curio. I guess Curio would represent Babu and Squad. Yeah, basically that's in a nutshell. Like, they match each other. Like, that's my connection between them. That's how they actually relate, and it makes sense, and it's not a bad thing. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing at all, because it's just an interesting thing to note. And that was something that they didn't do well with the past season, because like I could tell with Super Mega Force that they were trying to match the original feel of the first season of Power Rangers, but the thing is that didn't really work. The villains in this case, they matched them at the same time not trying to overdo it. They tried to do just enough, and I personally am a big fan of how they did things. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a long video again. That's also because I was trying to go through every character and every villain that's major. Not all the individual monsters, not all the Vivixes, not all the, you know, I'm not going to go through like the smaller characters. I'm mainly talking about the ones that actually have a bigger influence. I'm not going to even talk about Heckle, because Heckle, I feel like it's still too early to say much else. And, you know, that new monster that was showing up, I'm definitely curious about. And, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. So bye-bye, guys.